Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
The lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed, but freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who'll bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. bounds. The shadows fade, the dawn takes hold. A story written, a love retold. How it burns, this sacred flame, calling my soul, whispering my name. Boundless mercy, endless light, guiding me through the darkest night. Boundless mercy sets me free. Grace unending carries me. The drums they pound like a heartbeat true. Bagpipes wail, the skies break through. A song of faith, a song of fire, lifting me from the world's mire.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in and speak up and feel what we feel. He's breaking down the noise, cutting through the lies, shining light where the shadow hides. With guests in the mix and callers on cue, he's a voice for the many.
And good Friday Eve morning. For you normies, it's Thursday. Those of us that used to have weekends off, we like to call it Friday Eve because it's the day before Friday, which oddly enough, when I had weekends off, was like more fun for me than actual weekend, which was weird. That was when I started figuring out that I probably needed to figure out a new line of work, because it got to the point where I was, oh my God, it's Friday, and I'm all excited. And then halfway through Saturday, I was like, but tomorrow's Sunday. And that means it's Monday the next day. And that means I have to go back to work most of the time. And yeah, but now I work all the time, so it doesn't matter anyway. So yeah, I was working till I think I fell asleep at my desk again around 11:30 because I woke up and realized I didn't flip the switch. So anyway, so we're back. We're live. Thanks to my assistants, we still got a pretty tight show put together for you this morning. So I hope everybody's having a great Thursday. I want to give a quick shout out to Raptor, already hanging out in the chat. He's early. I hope everybody else starts coming in. Remember, as you come in, make sure you are liking the feed, sharing the feed, and pushing it out however you can, because that helps us beat the dreaded algorithms. I know, dad joke moment, but it deserves one of these. Just saying. All right, so let's get things started. Again, it is Thursday, October 16th. We are 16 days into the Schumer shakedown shutdown, and not much is changing other than the fact it looks like Thune is signaling that if they can get this thing passed as far as the CR, then they might consider extending the ACA subsidies. If they cave, I swear I'm going to... don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. I also got some data from a friend, and I'll be trying to get that analyzed for us while we're on our first break. It looks like there may have been a steep drop-off in housing applications, which would explain quite a lot if this data makes sense. But I want to get it reviewed first and make sure that I have alternate sourcing. So let's talk about this. So here in Oklahoma, the shutdown isn't theoretical. FAA trainers in Oklahoma City are benched. Airports are tightening belts, and real families are starting to feel it. But of course, Schumer, 16 days in, and Schumer has now failed 9 times to pass even a short-term funding patch. Republicans say they're ready to deal. Senator John Thune even guaranteed a vote on the ACA subsidies once the government reopens. Democrats still playing chicken with a lot of you folks' paychecks. According to Town Hall's Matt Vespa, he asked the right question during last night's session. What the hell happened to the Democrats? The caucus collapsed into confusion. No message, no plan, just finger pointing. Even staffers admitted Schumer lost the room. The adults in the room spent the evening fighting the drapes, or lighting the drapes on fire. Sorry, apparently I need to... I need to be able to read better today. I'm messing up on my notes. I'm sorry, but I'll fix it. Apparently I'm having to do the squinty thing today, so we'll raise the font a little bit on my notes. So hang on. Okay, so again, the caucus collapsed into confusion. Absolutely no message, no plan. And in case you're wondering, you can see most of this on C-SPAN. And I might suggest you bring popcorn if you decide to start checking it out. So if you're trying to figure out why your tax refund's delayed while senators argue over optics, you're not alone. So then came the curveball. John Fetterman, who I used to not so lovingly call Uncle Festerman, I now officially take all of that back. Yes, that guy, told a News Nation crowd he follows country over party and refuses to call people Nazis or fascists. In today's Democratic Party, that's practically treason. Pennsylvania insiders already hint a primary challenge is brewing for him in 2028. So that doesn't it doesn't surprise me. You can't go against the lockstep narrative of the left. The funny thing is they keep saying that we're the ones that are the thought police and we're the ones that only want like-minded individuals. And I will say there is a part of MAGA that does align with that thought process. If you're not 100% with us, you're against us. But most of the Republican Party doesn't feel that way. We still live by Reagan's rule of 80-20. And in today's climate, I will sometimes go as low as 60-40. As long as we are still over the line of what I want to get done, I will work with almost anybody. I will talk to almost anybody. What changed that for me was Charlie Kirk being assassinated. That has made it a lot harder. And that especially watching some of the stuff that's come out here in Oklahoma, I guess Turning Point USA is supposed to be here today. We'll see if that happens because they were already supposed to be here last week, and that event got canceled. And when it did, a bunch of online trolls were cheering. Now, whether those folks were actually from Oklahoma or just Chinese bots or whatever, I don't really know. But it's getting to the point where I'm starting to feel like I don't recognize my country or my state. I don't know how I feel about this. All right, so while Fetterman, of all people, continues to try to lower the temperature, Schumer keeps throwing gas on the fire, and the rest of us keep paying for the heat. Meanwhile, half a hemisphere away, President Trump quietly confirmed he's authorized CIA operations in Venezuela. And as PJ Media's Sarah Anderson noted, a pair of U.S. bombers apparently left some sky art over Venezuelan airspace, the kind that would make a middle schooler giggle and Maduro blush. You can't make this up. Washington can't pass a budget, but we've got enough jet fuel to doodle anatomy lessons over socialist dictatorships. Maybe the message was simple. While Congress argues about who keeps the lights on, the Pentagon's reminding tyrants the lights still work. That could be a good one. That could be a good one. All right, so after this message about a friend of ours, we're going to come right back into this. And we've got so when we come back, the breakdown in Washington isn't just political, it's systemic. And this week, the failure echoed through our airports. And that's next. But first, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Freedom Chat. If you haven't checked them out yet, I do encourage you to visit freedomchat.com. You can look everything over. It gives you a bit of a blurb about what it is that they do, the service they provide, and you can actually download whichever version fits your phone. Awesome thing about Freedom Chat. One, think Signal, but with better security. Two, it gives you the ability, if you are somebody who does things like I do, or maybe you're one of these people that does like art projects, whatever the case may be, it gives you another option to share your work and to communicate with people and to be able to do so securely. So over the last couple of weeks, or actually the last couple of days, there's been this big brouhaha over young Republicans. I'm staying out of that one because I have mixed emotions. I really do, because I talked about it a bit last night, and I honestly feel like what's happening is a bunch of kids that have grown up and become part of the Republican Party, that have gotten used to being called Nazis and everything else, just embraced it and it became part of their humor. That's after reading through this stuff multiple times, that's my take on it. I don't know, so that's why I'm staying out of it. But I will say this, if they had been using Freedom Chat, none of this would have been possible. Because with Freedom Chat, not only can you set a timer that says after so many minutes, these messages disappear, even if you don't want to do that, you can flip a switch that makes it impossible for anybody to get a screen capture who is part of the conversation. It won't, you know how Snapchat says, oh, somebody took a screen capture. No, it doesn't even do that. When they try to take a screen capture, all they get back is a blank screen. So I'm going to say this again. Signalgate wouldn't have been a thing if the Trump administration had been using Freedom Chat. All right. So if you thought the noise in Washington was bad, try catching a flight this week. At Harrisburg International in Pennsylvania, the public address system suddenly blared political rants. Not from TSA, not from security, but from hackers who decided to hold their own press conference. The group, calling itself Turkish Cyber Islam, claimed credit, though the FBI hasn't confirmed it. They slipped through outdated Wi-Fi networks and hijacked the PA system for about 10 minutes before officials shut it down. The good news, no flights were diverted. The bad news, apparently our airports are running on software old enough to vote. And we've known that for a while. So roughly 30% of Americans' airports still use PA systems older than 2010. Combine that with the shutdown sending federal IT staff home, and you've got a perfect storm of vulnerability. When the watchdogs are home without pay, the wolves start testing the fences. Tulsa International says they weren't hit, but raised monitoring levels. And here's the kicker. The FAA Academy in Oklahoma City, the place that trains many of these cyber techs who would respond to incidents like this, is partially furloughed because of the same shutdown that caused it. We furloughed the firewall and acted surprised that someone managed to guess the password. It's not what the hackers said that matters, it's the silence afterward. The system meant to inform passengers went off the rails, just like one of my shows, just like the one meant to govern them. Sorry. Anyway. So, yeah. All right. So now that we've gone through the rundown, I've got some audio and video clips to kind of go through these different various things as we go. So bear with me for just a moment here. We're going to back up a minute and we're going to run them in reverse. So we're going to talk about the bomber stuff first. There's a bit of material there, so hang on. All right. Sorry, I'm still getting... So they did an update on me on Restream again, and some things are different than they were before. So if I seem like I'm taking longer to queue things up, it's because I'm not used to the slightly different setup now. So it's not my fault, man. It's not my fault. All right. So I'm going to put this on the screen first. This was shared by Pete Hegseth. Under my standing authorities as Commander-in-Chief this morning, the Secretary of War ordered a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel affiliated with designated terrorist organization conducting narco trafficking in the U.S. Southcom theater. And just off the coast of Venezuela, intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics and was associated with illicit narco-terrorist networks and was transitioning along a known DTO route. The strike was conducted in international waters, and here we have the footage, because why wouldn't we? All right, let me make sure this gets queued up for you guys, and this is kind of... I don't think there's any audio, but it's still fun. Boom! I'm sorry. I might be clapping a little bit there. I know some of the leftists and even Rand Paul and what's the other guy's name? Thomas Massey don't really like this approach. I do. And before anybody yells at me about it, Congress was the one that decided to adopt the phrasing "the war on drugs." It's not my fault somebody decided to finally take it literally. Because as far as I'm concerned, it should have been being taken literally the entire time. Like the whole time. All right, so let's keep things flowing here. So yeah, that happened in the same vein of the CIA stuff that we have going on. And then I don't know if we actually have images of it. See, I'm looking at the flight paths and I'm not seeing what they're seeing. So, but anyway, here is President Trump talking about some of this stuff, and apologies for the Spanish subtitles, but you'll still be able to hear him. So hang on. Is that where we are? Yeah, that should be where we are.
All of that, but we get something in a way worse because they're a big purveyor of drugs, but we have worse. What they do very well is they send their criminals into the United States, and they send Tren de Aragua, that you know very well. You're from Venezuela, I assume. And they send them in by the thousands, literally. And these are the worst of all. And they empty their prisons into the United States. They empty their mental institutions into the United States. And because we had a president who's low IQ, he didn't realize what was going on. And the people that are high IQ that surround him, but they happen to be lunatics, radical left, they're highly intelligent, radical left lunatics, okay? So in a way, that's worse than having a guy like Biden. But they ran the show. You heard about the autopen. The person that really operated the autopen, but it was really the people that told the person that operated the autopen what to do. Those are the people that really were president, okay?
Yeah, so he's got a point there, right? So the people that were running the autopen were actually the president. So at least we know with this guy, we know who the president is. So we're going to backtrack a little bit, only because I forgot I had audio queued for this. It's my fault. I'm sleep deprived. My notes aren't exactly in order today because I was throwing them together in a hurry because I overslept. But anyway, here is John Fetterman, basically ensuring that he's going to get a 2028 primary. And it should be on the screen now. And here we go.
He's doing something bad for the country, then you go after him, right?
Yeah, well, it's like that's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have. I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down, and let's continue to have.
Boone has already agreed to that.
Well, I mean that.
You know that.
Well, for me, I do believe Leader Thune is an honorable man,
Yeah.
and I do believe he's not going to
extend.
lie. I mean, you can't guarantee any outcome, but what I'm saying is that's talking about what's wrong for the country. I can't vote for I can't vote to shutting our government down.
All right, so when we come back from the break, we're gonna be talking about this whole Leader Thune agreeing to talk about these ACA extensions, because Fetterman on the head, and we're going to get into that on the other side of this break. My name is Rick Robinson. You are listening to America Off the Rails. We'll be right back. I'm sorry, you're listening to the Rick Robinson Show. The other one was last night. Did I mention I'm sleep deprived and not awake? We'll be right back. Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick. Hello, friends. Okay, you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime. Pardon me, technical difficulties. When I tried to get cute with something earlier, and I forgot I can stack things now, which I wasn't able to do before, so it made something go south. All right, so let's take the break officially now. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, you've already heard the song. Sackhead Sean and I have actually collaborated and put a video together for it. So here you go.
Shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they take a kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom is unfree.
And welcome back into this completely discombobulated edition of the Rick Robinson Show. It is Friday Eve, though, so for those of you working for the weekend, you're nearly there. Welcome in. We're halfway through hour one. Still got hour two to come. Don't forget, tomorrow we do the 3-hour edition with Brad Slager and any other media types that decide they want to join in for the Weekend News Roundup in hour three. And then later tonight, I'll be back with Jen and Rick, where I have to keep my gentleman's bet because we lost. Sad. So we're gonna next level that stuff by next year. I'm gonna send her an OU shirt. She's gonna send me a Texas shirt, and that way I have whoever loses has to wear it for the entire show. The next show after the Red River rivalry game. We were gonna do that this year, and we just didn't get around to it. But I still have to come in, let her fight song play, and then yell their battle cry because I lost fair and square. So that'll be happening tonight. So if anybody wants to come in and watch me be totally humiliated, feel free. That'll be at 10 Eastern tonight. And then after that, we have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Before that, I think this should be the Culture Shift night. Dude, with doing juxtaposition every Saturday, my schedules are so thrown off, but I hope you guys are enjoying that. So it is spooky season here on KLRN Radio. So with spooky season, what we do is usually we do a thing called Juxtober, where basically we pick a topic that aligns with the spooky season, and we do a deep dive on it every week, usually 4 weeks, sometimes 5. This year will be a 5-week. Since the 1st of November is a Saturday, we've decided to extend it by extend spooky season by 1 day. So that will be our 5th and final episode for cryptids this year. Also, because it is spooky season and it's fall, I'd like to talk to you about the KLRM Radio Players. KLRM Radio Players was a group that was originally created by none other than Mickey Blowtorch. And the funny thing is, this happened while I was going through my divorce and near breakdown and all the other stuff that you guys have heard about a million times. But the funny thing is, I don't think I had ever even told anybody. I'd always wanted to get to the point where KLRM Radio had our own version of like the old school, 40s and 50s radio plays. Like Vincent Price playing, I think wasn't it Vincent Price that played The Shadow? I think. I could be mixing, but I know he was in one. And I remember listening to that when I was a kid. And to me, radio was kind of like a book, but next level. Because instead of you having the pictures in front of you, your mind had to create them. So I always liked that aspect of it. And it was something that I always wanted to be able to do. And when I finally decided I was ready to come back to doing this stuff and trying to figure it all out again, and starting to put one foot back in front of the other again, I realized that while I was away, they started the very thing that I had always wanted to do, and it became the KLRM Radio Players. Now, it's been a hit and miss thing because this is a labor of love for almost every single one of us that do this, and sometimes life gets in the way. However, this year, we do, in fact, have a new spooky season play. It's the day the earth stood still, and Mickey Blowtorch is rejoining the crew this year. So I do hope you guys join us for that. That is a week from tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, otherwise known as Aggie time, right here live on KLR Radio. So instead of He Said, She Said next week, we will have The Day the Earth Stood Still, and also a bit of a cast after party afterwards to hang out with the folks in the chat. So that was a bit longer of a read than I meant to give it, but it deserves it, so that's okay. All right, so back into the programming. So before we went to break, we started talking about the fact that Leader Thune is seriously giving consideration to a vote on extending the ACA subsidies, and to that, I say, and I bet you guys know what it's going to be, hail to the nah. Because no, no. The reason they put these things on a sunset clause in the first place was because they knew they'd never get them voted for otherwise. That's it. That's all. And they knew it. So that's why they did what they did. That's why they put them on a sunset. This isn't Republicans taking anything away. This is giving the Democrats exactly what they agreed to. But the problem is, if these things go away, you're going to find out exactly how unaffordable the Affordable Care Act really is. Because they used COVID as an excuse to buffer it because it is out of control. It has been out of control since its inception. This thing has been active since 2010. 15 years later, and you can't afford anything. Everybody's premiums have gone up 300% since 2010. That's insane. Not to mention the extra red tape and everything else that comes from it. I've told you about this before. I used to work for the University of Oklahoma through contract for the Department of Human Services. I was talking to people on the phone and training people how to talk to people on the phone and doing escalations for people that were talking to people on the phone. And half the time when I was doing I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't discuss that. That's protected by HIPAA. On a child support call. Explain that one to me. Explain exactly how our federal government managed to get its tendrils into the last real thing it didn't have a whole bunch of tendrils in, which was our healthcare. What if I told you, ladies and gentlemen, that the Affordable Care Act was designed to implode? Been telling you that since the day before it was passed. This was the framework to get us to socialized medicine. The Democrats know you're not ready for that yet. Unless, of course, you're in New York City, apparently. So they keep doing everything they can to kick the can down the road long enough to make sure that whenever everybody gets dependent on this thing, because that's what they want, they're going to rug pull. And then they're going to have the government scoop in and pick up the pieces. Well, we really don't have a choice anymore. We're going to have the government controlling healthcare now because the insurance industry has collapsed. Your services are not happening. This has been the plan all along. We told you this was the plan all along. This is one of the reasons why I got so mad at the Republicans, because the Republicans, after it got passed, their entire running thing was, if you reelect us, we will make this monstrosity go away. And then the problem is we did. And then they said, well, we're going to make it go away, but we're going to put something better in its place. What did you just say to me? Excuse me? You did what to who for how many jelly donuts? Because that's not what you told us when we voted for you. You said you're going to repeal it, and then the second y'all got sworn in, it changed to repeal and replace. And you wonder why nobody trusts you. You wonder why we keep sending an outsider like Trump in. And I know he doesn't really count as an outsider anymore because he's been in the political game for a decade, but he still punches you guys in the nose almost as often as he punches the other side of the nose. And right now, that's fine with a lot of us. Because y'all deserve to get punched in the nose. I'll be honest, y'all deserve to be punched a few degrees south from there too, but that's okay. That's okay. But so here we are, and we're stuck yet again. Again, day 16 of the shutdown. And we're still living in crazy town. Now you've got, apparently, according to everything that I'm seeing, a total meltdown in the Senate last night. And I'm sorry I was working so late because I missed it. Does the article I have a clip of it? That's my question. Let me find out. Because there's lots of stuff in there, but it doesn't seem like it's loading quite right. So let me see if there might not be any clips of the fun while we're continuing to talk here. And I'll go check over on another source and What else we got going on? Sorry, hang on. Wait a minute. So what happened? Okay, so this is a live read. So if I seem confused, it's probably because I am. So apparently the FBI went to Beck's home, and we're gonna find out what happened there. So President Donald Trump designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization in the wake of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk's assassination by a radical assassin who allegedly etched Antifa slogans into his bullet casings. In the interest of obliging Trump and finally destroying Antifa, the Justice Department and the FBI have evidently appealed to the expertise of some of those Americans who chronicled Antifa terrorist crimes, analyzed their tactics, and identified their supporters while authorities previously sat on their hands. Antifa is an anarcho-communist militant group that has long threatened lives and property throughout the Western world. In a show that debuted on October 8th titled Unmasking Antifa, the dark truth behind its well-funded network, Blaze Media co-founder Glenn Beck took a deep dive, shattering the myth that Antifa is leaderless and decentralized. We analyzed the Antifa network, Beck said, with regard to his show last week, and went from the street thugs to the support groups, eventually to the funding. Beck added, to say the FBI was interested in this might be an understatement. Just days after the show's initial broadcast, Beck received a knock on the door from the actual FBI. I have to admit, I was scared of where this was going, but that's okay. So let's just say the FBI is turning over every single stone, continued Beck. It is so clear to me that they are exposing all angles of this, and they are talking to anyone and everyone they can, and that can give them any kind of information. How do I know? He then immediately began to explain why he is confident that the federal authorities are serious about Antifa this time. Beck indicated that he was informed in a phone call Saturday that FBI Director Kash Patel wanted to send some agents over to speak with him. All right, so I have not watched this yet, but I probably will later today. So I'm going to go ahead and share this out for anybody else who wants to check it out. There is a clip from it, though. So we're going to play that. Hang on. This is interesting, and I actually have to commend the FBI a little bit for using unconventional sourcing to get things done. They have been doing some amazing stuff. I'm not even as much as I am kind of wishy-washy on Pam Bondi. There's a lot of stuff the FBI is doing that's absolutely amazing, and I know she's kind of the upper echelon from there, but still, she still gets some of the credit. All right, here we go.
Last week, I did a TV show that apparently got the FBI's attention. The topic was initial investigation, a jumping off point, shattering the myth that Antifa just, it's just leaderless and decentralized. We thought, no, it's really not. So we dove in headfirst and we analyzed the Antifa network, and we went from the street thugs to the support groups, eventually to the funding. Okay. To say the FBI was interested in this might be an understatement. Let's just say the FBI is turning over every single stone. It is so clear to me that they are exploring all angles of this, and they are talking to anyone and everyone that can give them any kind of information. How do I know? Saturday, I get a phone call. The director would like to send over some agents to speak to you, Glenn. And I'm like, the FBI agents? Yes, you said some things that they need to talk to you about. And I'm like, well, good things or bad? They'll be over. So they sat in my living room. 3 agents sat in my living room on Saturday afternoon for almost 2 hours. And I immediately called Jason. I'm like, Jason, you're the researcher. It's your fault. I'm going to throw you under the bus. You better get your butt over here. So Jason was there, and my wife and Jason and I sat there, and it was surreal at one point. I talked to him for about 15 minutes just going over the Tides Foundation and saying, if you understand Tides, you'll understand how difficult your job is going to be. And this is information that I first gave on Fox years ago. Let me just say this. Finally, we have an administration and an FBI director that is willing to go in deep. Not surface, but deep. I can only imagine what we could have avoided if anyone in an administration would have done this in 2011. But if I were in that imaginary group of Antifa, which, by the way, has imaginary leaders leaving the country, maybe to imaginary countries outside of the U.S. right now, I would be very concerned if I were part of anything that was sending money their way or assistance their way. I don't know. I might be a little concerned because the FBI is dead ass serious. Thank you, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and all of the agents at the FBI.
All right, so why is this a big deal? I would like to point something out. You know, he said this is stuff that I put out on Fox News years ago. For those of you who don't remember, Glenn Beck was on Fox News from January 19th, 2009 to June 30th, 2011. So just a little bit over 2 years. So we're talking about somewhere between 17 to 14 years ago, if I'm doing the math right. 16 to 14 years ago. So let's just split the difference and say 15 years ago, he talked about the Tides Foundation on Fox News. The FBI is finally listening. If you need any more proof that this administration is doing things differently than any other administration before it, even Trump version 1.0, then all you really need to do is look at that. When they're finally taking people serious who the mainstream media has laughed at because of their ability to do research and their ability to get to the bottom of things, this shows you exactly where we are. This means we have an administration who's tired of putting up with everybody's stuff. This means we have an administration who understands that Antifa is, in fact, and are, in fact, the fascists. Nobody really, I mean, they're still using the same symbols for the group that arose that tried to counter Nazi Germany. Inside Germany, they're still using the same symbols. The problem with them using the same symbols is this means that they are likely aligning themselves with that group. And guess what? They were the opposite of fascists. They were communists. This is why fascism is always viewed as a right-leaning philosophy, because communism is considered the far-left philosophy. The problem is, and I've talked about this before, when you go too far one way or the other, you wind up around on the other side, and you have right here. So what happens, sorry, I know I'm covering my mic right now, but what happens when you have this going on is you have fascism, communism, fascism, communism. They're two sides of the same coin. They're not right-leaning or left-leaning. They're the same philosophy with different trappings. Because when you go too far to one extreme or the other, you wind up in the same place. The only difference is kind of like we're talking about the difference between Coke and Pepsi here, folks. That is how minute the differences are between actual true fascism and true communism, is the differences between Coke and Pepsi. They're basically the same product. They're in a different colored wrapper or can, and they taste just slightly different depending on the ingredients that are sprinkled in, but it's the same damn concept. Control through fear. Control through actually taking all choices away from you. Control by limiting your freedoms. They're the same thing. And I'm tired of the fact that in this country we continue, well, fascism is right-leaning. No, it's not. No, it's not. But you know why they want you to think that it is? because then they can paint one side of the country as actual terrible people. Because to that group, communism is fine. Communism has never really been tried. If we ever actually used it and used it properly, we would find utopia, which I have to admit, I wish was true. If we could all just do the things that we love to do and still have our needs met, that would be absolutely amazing. I would sign up for that tomorrow if I thought it would work. But it doesn't. It can't. Because the problem that you have is once you start being in what is basically a commune, that's where the word communism comes from. It's a group of people that come together and work together for the common good within a group, and everybody does their own part, and everybody does their share, and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Except what happens when people get tired of having to do all these things? Or what happens when they realize that their neighbors aren't working as hard as they are? What happens when they realize some of their neighbors aren't working at all? The problem with communism is this. When it starts, you've got a bunch of people outside the wagon pulling it. So everybody's pulling in the right direction. Everything seems like it's going all hunky-dory. You've got just a few people inside the wagon, so everybody's pulling. Problem is, the further you go, the more tired everybody gets. So eventually more and more people start hopping into the wagon. As more and more people start hopping into the wagon, the people that are left outside of the wagon are doing everything they can to pull it, and they're having to pull harder, and they're pulling harder, and it's taking longer, and it's making them more tired, and eventually more and more people hop into the wagon. Why am I using that analogy? Because Social Security is communism. It's in the name. Social. Socialism, communism, about that far apart in the grand scheme of things. And what's happening now? We have more people in the wagon than we have pulling the wagon. And it's funny because even G brought this up last night. Everybody's mad because the government keeps talking about having to extend retirement. As long as we are using this communist system to try to take care of our elderly people, we're going to continue to have to increase the retirement age because we're not using capitalism to its full benefit. Because so here's how they sold it though. We're going to make it easy for you. We're going to take the money out of your check, and that way when you need it, you'll have it. But they don't invest it. They don't, well, I don't know if they do or not. It would make more sense if they did, but they don't. They just funnel it because remember, this was all supposed to be in a lockbox. But now it just gets funneled back into the general fund and used for whatever the hell they want. And then hopefully they're gambling that you're going to die before you ever need the money. That's funny because I was actually about to make that point at the top of the hour, BZ. But we'll tease it now because, I have a feeling this one may actually be one of the longest shutdowns, if not the longest shutdown in history, especially after what we talked about earlier in the hour with the total meltdown of the Democratic Party on C-SPAN last night. Really sad I was working late because I would have loved to have seen that. I'm going to have to go back and look for clips for tomorrow's show because I'm hearing rumblings of just how bad it was. I mean, there was no caning, sadly, but, anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, look, the simple fact of the matter is we got sold a bill of goods when it came to Social Security. They basically, we're going to put it on autopilot. We're going to take care of it for you. When in reality, if they had just given us all the money that they planned on taking back from us and letting us invest it, all of us could have been retired millionaires by the time it was time to retire. But here's the problem with all of that. They don't want you self-sufficient. They need you under their control because if you're under their control, they can get what they need from you. There's a reason when this government was first founded that the only people that were allowed to vote were people that were property owners because they had skin in the game. We now have way too many people that are inside the wagon voting to make life easier for the people inside the wagon, thinking that they have a bottomless paycheck to pull from, and they do not. This has become a huge problem in this country, and it's been a problem pretty much since its inception because this happens all the time. And this is when we start getting into the greed versus risk versus reward part of capitalism, because there are people that take advantage of the capitalistic system, and it's normally the folks that manage to get their hooks into a government honeypot, like the railroads or colleges. Because what did they do? As soon as the government said, we're gonna help you make college more affordable. Oh, cool. That means we can start making people take more classes then. And it basically became grades 13, 14, 15, and 16 instead of a specialized education. College used to be specifically, by the time you got out of high school, you knew what you wanted to do with your life. You were reasonably educated enough to be able to move into a college setting and then focus specifically on whatever career path you were taking within that college setting. We don't do that anymore because we can't. 8th graders can't read or do math. 4th graders barely can read and do math. This is why we have so many college courses now for remedial stuff, because we have failed our children. But again, we have taken the communist approach to education. We've taken the communist approach to education. We've taken the communist approach to our retirement, and both of them are failing miserably. Miserably. All right. So, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we are up against it. So, we're going to have to take a break. Hour 1 is pretty much in the books. Hour 2 still to come. Oh, we've still got so many things to talk about. So, I hope you will hang out with us. And if you're just joining us, make sure you are liking the feed, sharing the feed, telling your friends about the feed. Tell your friends that we exist. Tell your friends' friends that we exist. Tell your friends' friends to tell their friends that we exist. We're still trying to blow through all these algorithms. My name is Rick Robinson. This is The Rick Robinson Show. Hour 2 on the other side. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. That's the price of stand tall when they take a kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
The wind it cries through the broken hills, a voice of love that never stills. Grace flows down like healing stream, breaking chains and mending dreams. Boundless mercy, endless light, guiding me through the darkest night. Boundless mercy sets me free. Grace unending carries me. I said I'm lost, now I am found on holy ground where hope abounds. The shadows fade, the dawn takes hold, a story written, a love retold. How it burns, this sacred flame, calling my soul, whispering my name. Boundless mercy, endless light, guiding me through the darkest night. Boundless mercy sets me free. Grace unending carries me. The drums they pound like a heartbeat true. Bagpipes wail, the skies break through. A song of faith, a song of fire, lifting me from the world's mire.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real, tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel.
And welcome back into hour 2 of the Rick Robinson Show, the Friday Eve edition. We are live. I hope everybody's having a great week so far. I would say I'm almost done with mine, but mine never really ends anymore, it seems. But that's all right, because most of the time I'm doing things that I really like to do. As a matter of fact, I am finding new ways to express myself now that I'm getting more comfortable with using artificial intelligence and all that fun stuff. So that video that you just watched on the break, that was actually a collaboration between myself and Sackhead Sean over at SHR Media. So I wrote the lyrics. ChatGPT helped me dial it in with Suno to get the sound we were looking for, and then so I sent it over to him like, I'm still trying to figure out this video stuff, but you want to help? And he did, and that's what that was. Anyway, yeah, you guys can thank a listener for that. They took care of that for me. I don't know if they want to be. I don't know if they want me to say who they are. So if they're listening, they can feel free to chime in if they want. But anyway, so yeah, that was a listener that sent me that. So for those of you who don't know, Raptor was just commenting on the cap on the microphone that actually has our branding on it now. That was actually sent to me by a listener. But yeah, so anyway, so yeah, I've been having a little bit of fun. I actually started using especially for the Sunday show, I started having ChatGPT and Suno help me put together branded music for the different segments for the Sunday show. Now, last night's episode, if you missed it, was just a Bible study. I haven't gotten it out yet. So what we've decided to do for Kingdom and Country, there's actually 2 phases. There's the regular weekly Sunday show, which is usually tied to a theme of some sort, usually runs 3, 4, sometimes 5 episodes. But then because of our scheduling, I decided that since Inquiry is kind of more of an intellectual show, I thought a faith balance every other week would be a good idea. So instead of making it part of the theme on every other Wednesday night, because it just throws the counts off, and after, help having ChatGPT and a couple other programs help me start getting a newsletter put together for that particular brand, I came up with the idea of just doing Wednesday night Bible study twice a month. So that'll be happening 7 p.m. Eastern time every other Wednesday night right here live on KLRM Radio. Our first launch of that was last night. I haven't gotten everything finalized as far as edits yet. So those will go out on the podcatchers, and the newsletter that accompanies it will go out at some point later today, along with everything else. Oh, I know, but we get better counts from the other stuff too. So anyway. Yeah, at some point I may actually start pulling down the video replays to force everybody to go over to the audio ones, because we make money off the audio ones. We really don't make money off the video ones yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to be that cruel or not, or at least pull them off of X, because X doesn't have any monetization potential anyway. And I've been doing so I know this isn't, and we'll get back into the show topic itself in a minute, because I'm off on a tangent. But one of the things that I figured out, because I've been looking at X's monetization, and compared to everybody else's monetization, they don't pay nothing. So if you manage to get a short or something to blow up on TikTok and you get 1 million impressions, you get $600. You know what you get for 5 million impressions from X? Apparently, I don't know, because I've never hit the number, but apparently it's like $8.50 for every 5 million impressions. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, that's terrible. That's terrible. But anyway. All right. So back into the actual show itself. Sorry, I fell down a rabbit hole there for a second. Okay. So here we go. I'm trying to get back into my notes. Apparently, I went down too far. All right, so this broke yesterday. Actually, well, I can't really say broke because it was announced by the president. But Operation Summer Heat was discussed yesterday by the president of the United States. So we're going to shift gears and so hour one, we mainly been talking about gridlock, Senate indecision from the Democrats, throwing tables and chairs and oh my, not really, but from what I've heard, it was pretty dang close for the Senate. So according to the president, the Bureau, otherwise known as the FBI, just announced the results of Operation Summer Heat, which was a nationwide crackdown that led to over 8,600 arrests, 900 guns off the streets, and 187 victims of human trafficking rescued. I'm going to say those numbers again. 8,600 arrests nationwide, 900 guns, most likely obtained illegally, would be my guess, off the streets, and 187 human trafficking victims rescued. And guess what? It touched here in Oklahoma too. A total of 92 arrests, violent offenders, gang members, traffickers, the kind of people who make neighborhoods unsafe here in Oklahoma. FBI Director Kash Patel called it a major disruption of organized crime and cartel pipelines. The operation ran all summer, June through September, and involved the DEA, ATF, local PDs, and state task force. The numbers are staggering. $47 million in assets seized, 26 tons of narcotics pulled, and hundreds of illegal weapons recovered. Tulsa PD helped take down a multi-gang trafficking cell in Oklahoma City. Agents dismantled a human smuggling ring and rescued 3 victims. Special Agent Edward Gray put it plainly, Washington gridlock doesn't stop bullets. Our job is to make sure innocent people don't have to dodge them. And that's the story that nobody else is really telling. And it took the president of the United States to start discussing it because all the politicians in Washington, D.C. are currently posturing. And again, Chuck Schumer is holding the government hostage for $1.4 trillion. So while Congress is fighting with one another and the government is effectively shut down, which again, yeah, you tell me if you care. I kind of don't. As BZ pointed out earlier in the program in the chat, this may wind up being the longest government shutdown in history, but is it really shut down is my question. So the agents, the deputies, the cops on the beat, they're out there doing their job while Washington argues about how to define what their job actually is. If Congress ran like the FBI, they'd have passed a budget in a week. This operation shows what accountability looks like when it isn't filtered through politics, just professionals doing their job and protecting Americans. So maybe instead of another hearing or another task force, Congress should take a field trip to Tulsa and see what getting results actually looks like. I'm down for that. But look, dude, this summer heat stuff is a huge deal. All right, so we got to talk about this back into the realm of the shutdown because there's been another update. This just came out like within the last several minutes. Surprising no one, a federal judge has blocked Trump's administration's reduction in force layoffs during shutdown. So stop me if you've heard this one before. A federal judge has issued an order blocking the Trump administration from implementing one of its policies. I know. It's shocking. It's amazing. Anyway, so there's snark involved here, both by the author and by me, because holy crap. Once again, a district judge has entered a temporary restraining order stopping the administration from proceeding in response to the current government shutdown. This is from San Francisco through the Associated Press. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's administration from firing workers during the government shutdown, saying the cuts appeared to be politically motivated and were being carried out without much thought. U.S. District Court Judge Susan Ilston in San Francisco repeatedly pressed the assistant U.S. attorney to explain the administration's rationale for the more than 4,100 layoffs that started going out Friday, even though furloughed workers cannot access the work emails and there are no human resources specialists to assist with next steps. Oh, wait, let me grab my hanky for these people. Oh, they can't even get into their emails. And how do they know they've been furloughed? I don't care. Sorry, maybe that makes me a dick, but I just don't care. According to the judge, it's very much ready, fire, aim on most of these programs, and it is human costs. It is human cost that cannot be tolerated. She granted a temporary restraining order blocking the job cuts, saying she believes the evidence would ultimately show the cuts were illegal and in excess of authority. So we kind of gotta hand it to her about the, it's a human cost that can't be tolerated. At least she's acknowledging the non-legal standards she's applying. If I don't like it, it shall not stand. If Ilston's name sounds vaguely familiar, it's probably because she's also the same judge who blocked an executive order aimed at reorganizing 20 federal agencies, including the Department of State, Treasury, and Veterans Affairs, as well as the Department of Government Efficiency back in May. That case already made it up to the Supreme Court once and garnered a stay in July. These are slightly different issues, though, and though they are sort of related, and they are still in play here. Now, this order, as noted, is a temporary restraining order rather than a preliminary injunction. Ilston has set the schedule for that next step with a hearing on October 28th. So the administration may hold off on appealing until she enters the inevitable injunction. Either way, we're just in the early stages of this one, so we'll continue to watch it unfold. And of course, let you know of anything that we find here at KLRN Radio and also through Red State or Town Hall or anybody else that manages to put something out. The article that I was pulling from was written by Susie Moore, so we're going to put that out on the feed here in just a moment for anybody that wants to follow along with that either later or whatever. But yeah, surprising absolutely no one. Another judge says, hey, no, you can't do that. Funny, because right now is about the only time he could actually legally do that. And I think it will come to pass that that is true again eventually, but who knows? All right. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail right now. Did I mention that John Fetterman's facing a little bit of ire from his own folks? Well, before we get into that, I do want to talk to you about our friends over at Freedom Chat. Again, you may have been seeing this scandal with the young Republicans. All of this could have been avoided, especially since I'm pretty sure most of it was sarcasm after these kids grew up being called Nazis most of their lives by everybody and everything. If they had just used Freedom Chat, no screen captures would have been possible. They could have even sent messages to self-destruct. Again, check out our friends over at freedomchat.com. You can go to their website. It gives you a brief rundown of everything that they do and even gives you the links you can click on to download the app appropriate to your brand of phone. And I do encourage you to check it out. If you decide to check it out, go find us. We are there, KLRN Radio. The Rick Robinson Show is there. I believe our friends over at SHR Media are there too, so make sure you go check them out as well. But so back to this. So earlier this week, John Fetterman made a small poignant gesture on his X account. He unpinned a nearly 2-year-old tweet showing the display of Israeli hostage posters outside his Senate office. He vowed to keep the posters up and the tweet pinned to the top of his account until every hostage returned home. At last, they were all home, although not all of the bodies of the deceased hostages have been returned. So the tweet was able to go on its merry little way. And here is the post where he was discussing that very thing, and we're going to let that run here in just a second, so hang on. This was the first time that I realized that I was either wrong about this man or the stroke has changed something within this man. Anyway. All right, so hang on. BZ's dropping me a link. Let me see what that is about. Okay, so yeah, we'll get into this in a second. Thanks, BZ. I actually had some of that already, but you're giving me an additional source, so we'll use that video in a minute. But yeah, so this is kind of this that we just talked about. This bit right here is kind of when I realized that I might have been slightly wrong about Fetterman. I don't know if it was maybe the stroke rewired his brain, or if maybe he's been more common sense than he was given credit for from the beginning. I don't know the answer to that question. What I do know is this: the man's in trouble. His party is about to disavow him, because not only has he been on the side of Israel, and unabashedly so, he's now standing against his own party in the shutdown. So Senator Fetterman was possibly the strongest pro-Israel voice from the Democratic Party over the last few years. He regularly met with the families of the hostages and happily gave the stink eye to pro-Hamas protesters. I love that line. Happily gave the stink eye to pro-Hamas protesters when they would try to disrupt his life. Dare we say his leadership on this issue warmed the hearts of many conservatives. But of course, there is always a political cost to be paid when you lead on an issue, particularly when your own party didn't ask you to lead on it. And it looks like Fetterman is about to find out what his party thinks of his independent, yet decidedly still very leftist voice. Pennsylvania Democrats are reportedly already hard at work on a plan to prevent his reelection in 2028 by running several state heavyweights against him in the primary. So this is from Holly Otterbane on X. Scoop, the 2028 Dem primary to knock out John Fetterman is already underway. Top Dems are openly contemplating running against him or keeping the door open to a Senate bid in the event he retires. Would-be challengers are bashing Fetterman and each other. According to a Thursday report in Axios, Democrats are active and in active recruitment mode in their efforts to take out Fetterman. Potential Democratic challengers are already bashing Fetterman and each other years ahead of schedule. Some Democratic officials are openly contemplating running against Fetterman or keeping the door open to a Senate bid in the event he retires. Some names being bandied about to take on Fetterman in the primary include current reps Brendan Boyle and Chris DeLuzio and former rep Connor Lamb. So what exactly has Fetterman done to incur his party's wrath? So it's not just the pro-Israel stance. Remember, he's also standing with the Republicans in regards to the shutdown and saying that he doesn't believe the shutdown is a good idea. And he believes Thune when he says that he will bring the extensions for those tax, those subsidies to a vote. And Fetterman himself doesn't seem one bit worried about primary challengers, though, telling Axios to enjoy your clickbait and has to comment on the story. Okay, yeah. And basically, when they asked him if he wanted to respond or give any type of a follow-up, he said, "Please do not be contacting me." Wasn't his exact words, but close enough. All right, so let's see. So in case you missed it last night, I don't have the audio clip stored up anymore, but Nancy Pelosi was confronted about the fact that there, I guess, is a new January 6th committee underway, and whether or not are about to be underway, and whether or not she was afraid that she would wind up facing accountability for the fact that she didn't allow the National Guard at the Capitol, because remember, it was actually her at the time. And she blew up. Actually, I lied. I do have the audio of her, or the video of her blowing up. Hang on. It's not a very long clip, but it's a fun one. I enjoy being able to trash Gam whenever possible. So here we go.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
Was it me, or did it seem like her dentures were about to fall out? Oh, dude, the finger pointing. I was just waiting for her to start thumping her finger in her chest. But yeah, so. You know, that actually could be a valid point. So BZ, in response to Fetterman, put this in the chat. I think the stroke and medical efforts made him realize his own mortality, and he came to see the Democrats in a different light. So, yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. BZ in the chat. The U.S. Capitol Police Chief Sund already outed her years ago. The receipts are on the internet for anyone to see. Hell, we've got her in her own words on a video capture saying that she was the one that dropped the ball. So I don't really know what she expects to happen now that, they have a January 6th committee actually interested in finding the truth as to why all of that was allowed to happen in the way that it did. And I'm going to say this again, for anybody who on our side who broke the law and actually did things that they shouldn't have done, I'm fine with them facing some form of consequences. But this whole thing that they did the first time, especially now that we're finding out that there were all kinds of FBI assets embedded in the crowd. And for anybody, well, they only did that. No, they didn't have that. There would have been no, that didn't happen after it started. That was before. And for everybody who's like calling Donald Trump crazy because he's calling it Biden's FBI, it still technically was Democrat FBI. You know how we know? We finally figured out who the deep state were. We've talked about that on this very show before. We know who the deep state were. You remember those specially classified mid-level employees, the ones that were almost impossible to fire? And when Donald Trump uncovered them, they were like, you know how hard it's going to be to fire these people? They've been entrenched for so long. That is, in fact, the deep state. Those were the people who kept talking to the people under them and saying, just pay attention to your supervisors and ignore the big man, the big orange bad man in the White House. And we're going to do what we always do. And that has come to light more often than not. And we've been finding it in every single level and layer of federal governance. And that is why, even though he didn't word it very well, he's been able to make the point that it was a Democratic-controlled FBI that put assets in the field on January 6th. Again, you want to know how I know? Because there's no other explanation as to why people got into areas of the Capitol that require both key card and code access to be able to get in. Anyway. Yeah, the deep state has, in fact, basically become the fourth branch of government. Note to self, never drink while orchestrating an insurrection. That's good advice. That's good advice. Although, wouldn't drinkage make it more fun? All right. So it looks like House Democrats are stepping on another rake again. We're going to get into that. Let's see where we are. All right. So we'll get into that on the other side of the break. Again, I know I'm playing it a lot, but I don't have a lot of other original music to play yet. We're working on that. And I am eventually going to start running this stuff over on Sean's channel. So it's why I'm trying to clean up all the stuff so I don't keep having to send him all the licensing information every time they get in trouble for me playing stuff. So anyway, my name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. Music break incoming. On the other side, we'll get into the Democrats finding all the rakes with their faces yet again. Stay tuned.
The lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief. But every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page. A warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free.
Welcome back into the Liggy Lobinson's show. Had to be done. If you're not in the chat, you won't get the joke. It's not my fault. Hang out in the chat. Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are nearly done with the show. We've got one more segment. But we do have, thanks to BZ, one of the clips that I was looking for that I couldn't find today, which was a bit. So you remember when all this started, the shutdown, 16 days ago? And C-SPAN was playing the clips of the phone callers from the damn it. Now I'm doing the Chinese inflection on everything. I tried to say angry and it came out angry. The angry Republicans, or in this case, the angry Republicans. Sorry, I'm just going to keep going with that joke for the last few minutes of the show. Probably not. I'll stop in a minute. But so the worm has turned, ladies and gentlemen. This was on CNN just last night, I believe. You ready? You ready? You ready? Here we go.
The Democrats' polling is not looking too good.
The Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base.
So why are Democrats so upset? Listening to people call into C-SPAN can make you lose some brain cells. But in this case, it's worth a dive in. Let's hear what's got these Democrats so unhappy.
You had 2 years of a president who was never there. The only Biden we heard about for years was Hunter, which was ridiculous.
I'm very dissatisfied with I call it the Democratic Party now, because they're like a bunch of vermin. We've been Democrats since I was a kid. These individuals who pose themselves as Democrats more likely are supporting the Communist National Party.
And if they would listen to what AOC and Bernie Sanders are saying, this is what many people want: more progressive, ideas, and this is especially what young people want.
They're basically socialists now. They call themselves progressives, but if you read Karl Marx, he said from the very beginning that Americans would never take to the word socialist or communist, but they would take the word progressive, and that's what you hear all of them say. They're progressive now. I'll probably vote independent from now on, or I might even vote Republican. I don't know.
I think the Democrats almost need to stop bashing against Trump so much and start focusing really on some of those things that Cory Booker was talking about health care and about the way the immigrants have been treated. I think Joe Biden is at fault for the state of the party. It would have been a lot different if he had had a different frame of mind and said, yes, it's time for me to step aside back maybe 2 years into his term and let the party decide on a new standard bearer. So there's a lot of the problems are self-inflicted, and they need to step back, look at themselves, and I don't even think that really continually bashing Trump is most effective.
I'm registered Democrat, but I hate my party. I haven't voted for a Democrat really in the elections in quite a while, and yes, I voted a Republican many times because I like the policies better. Democrats have had terrible policies, and now we have the rise of the so-called progressives. They're really regressives. People like the Squad and Ocasio-Cortez and now Mondami, who might become the mayor of New York City. He's a proven socialist and Marxist as well as an anti-Semite. This is just really terrible, the things that they actually believe in.
I have a complaint about both parties. I'm very unhappy with both because of the fact that quite a few years ago now, none of them are building any new apartments for the low-income workers and retired seniors. I live in a senior retirement apartment, and anyway, we've had broken pipes. We only have one elevator in the building, and it's been down for a week at a time, sometimes a few days at a time, and while they wait for new parts, and even when the new parts come, sometimes they're the wrong ones and they have to reorder.
First party to fix this lady's elevator will win the midterms in 2026.
All right, so that was from our friends over at the Daily Caller, but you heard it, and the funny thing is, and BZ already mentioned this in the chat, you've got people within the Democratic Party saying they need to go further left. I don't think can they go any further left? That's my question. But anyway, so just in case you're wondering what's coming up this week for anybody who's a political junkie like me, so you've got the New York City mayoral debate is actually tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Might see if I can find a way to watch that for a little bit. Well, I would, except I forgot I'll be somewhere performing a wedding. I won't be back from a ceremony yet that I have to perform today. The 2025 Virginia Attorney General debate, that one should be fun to watch. That one is also apparently today. Doesn't give me a timestamp on that one, though. So this will be the first debate for the New York City mayoral. The next is Thursday, October 16th. I'm sorry. The second, is Wednesday, October 22nd. So, wow, they're doing those really close together. I wonder. I know they're almost up to election day, but those seem like they're kind of close together for me. So in Virginia, the Attorney General debate is notable, especially because of the controversy regarding the text messages. And I still think the Young Republican stuff that was released was Jay Jones' way of trying to deflect from what he was saying in his text messages. A lot of those can be clearly viewed as kind of sarcastic responses. And again, you're talking about younger kids, probably anywhere between the ages of 13 to 20. I don't know what the ages are for young Republicans. I've never bothered to look. But again, think about that from this perspective. If these kids are anywhere between even 15 to 20, then you're talking about from the time that they became politically active, they have been being called names like Nazis, everything else in between. So I think a lot of this was dark humor coming through and people just embracing the fact that, we've been called worse than Hitler, so let's just have a little bit of fun with it. We've all done it. I've done it. So again, I don't if the left isn't willing to police their side over stuff that's a million times worse, I don't really care what a bunch of kids are saying in text messages. I know none of my kids are saying things like that. That's all I care about. But so what is the plan for the debate tonight in New York City? It looks like Cuomo and Sliwa aim to blunt Mamdani's momentum, or at least they're hoping to. I don't know if they're going to try to tag team the guy or what the plan is, but it looks like they are trying to figure out a way to slow him down. All I know is if I was Sliwa, I would be mad. I mean, I get it. It's next to impossible for a Republican to win in New York City right now. But if I had the leader of my party and currently the leader of the free world telling everybody to vote for Cuomo, I would be very, very angry. Very, very angry indeed. And yes, BZ, I did in fact see the big sigh from the boss earlier. Oh, so much fun. So much fun. Look, if you like small government, if you like the government being out of your life as much as possible, then this is a great time to be alive. Seriously. The government isn't doing very much right now, which means they're part and parcel mostly staying out of your lives, unless, of course, you happen to be an illegal alien. And then they're all up in your beeswax. And for that, you have earned whatever you get from them, in my opinion. All right, so let's take a quick spin around my show notes and make sure we've covered all of the bases, just because. All right, so I guess we are getting into. Sorry, my phone was going off. I was seeing if it was anything important. Oh, that's somebody from Washington, D.C. keeps calling me. One of these days I may actually answer. Maybe it's important. Hell, I don't know. So here we are nearing the end of this 2-hour journey. And here's what I've got. One, America is run by politicians who can't keep the doors open, on one hand. The other is held together by the people who never stopped showing up. 16 days into the shutdown, and we've seen it all. The Senate that can't organize a vote, hackers hijacking public loudspeakers, and an FBI operation proving that justice still works even when politics doesn't. The scariest part for me is that part in the middle. I would like to point out that a good third of our airports are currently running on technology older than the first smartphone. I don't know how you feel about that, but that terrifies me. And it was even worse. We found out after, Buttigieg, who got to take the victory lap as compared to the new guy, I ran the safest transportation department ever, blah, blah, blah. And then we find out that they were, overtaxing systems and not upgrading systems and moving air traffic control locations to hundreds of miles away from particular airports to consolidate, and then overtaxing that system because the new systems that they were trying to use couldn't keep up with the old wiring that were used to make the connections. Then everybody couldn't figure out why they kept blinking out all the damn time. The problem with all of this, no matter how you look at it, is these aren't random stories. They're symptoms of the same disease. And we're living through it right now. It's a term that I've kind of come to call system fatigue. We've built a government so big it can't remember what competence feels like. But the silver lining, the American spirit still knows how to get the job done. Think about that this week. Congress is locked in performative chaos. Hackers are yelling through airport PAs, and our Air Force is drawing sky doodles over Venezuela of anatomy. So can you think about that for a second? If you pitch that as a script even to the lowest low-rent streaming service, they would tell you it was too far-fetched. And yet, here we are, living through it as we speak. Maybe the next continuing resolution should include a line item for common sense. But there is good news, ladies and gentlemen. The heart of this country still beats outside of the Beltway. And if anything, it has been awoken more by what's happened within the last 30 days. What if I told you that church attendance among Generation Z or Zennials, as we call them, or Zoomers, or whatever you want to call them, depending on where they break down in the scale, is up by almost 2% year over year from 2024 to 2025. That's a big jump. What if I told you that more and more kids were checking out Bibles and Bible apps between 2024 and 2025? What if I told you church service attendance was up overall? Everybody seems to forget that this country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And as a matter of fact, it is a bad word to say that anymore. That's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Almost every single person that was involved in the founding of this country was a devout person of faith. And even the ones who weren't were still primarily agnostic, not atheist. So there was still faith involved. Our founding documents mention our faith. We've turned our face away from it for so long that it took something as drastic as Charlie Kirk to turn it back is insane to me. But as we start to close out the show, I'm reminded of a line from the ceremony where he was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Freedom. And I thought this was probably one of the most touching moments, even from his wife, because she was talking about how much of a struggle it was to find him a present every year for his birthday, because he wasn't materialistic and he already pretty much had everything that he already wanted. And she said, "Mr. President, it may have come after his passing, but you may have given him the best birthday present ever by giving him this." Now, I'm paraphrasing that a bit, but I want to commend that woman for her strength, because I, almost 6 years ago, started going through a divorce. Well, 5 years ago, started going through a divorce, and I'm still a mess. I can't imagine how much worse it would be if the person that I loved with my whole heart didn't just decide to leave, but was completely taken away from me by death. I don't know how she functions. I'm watching this woman give public appearances and talks and things that I am envious in her ability to do, because I haven't been able to completely put my life back together. And for her, it's been a month. For me, it's been going on 5 years. And I know maybe from the outside, it doesn't seem that bad. And maybe that's what she goes through, because we're looking at hers from the outside, and from the inside, she feels like a mess, but she's doing everything she can to hold it together for the outside world. And maybe that's why it seems different watching her do it. I don't know. But I know this: God uses everything for good, even if we can't understand it. And that's exactly what's been happening with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You are seeing a country finishing waking up. COVID and the lockdowns and the education issues were enough to start us waking up, but we had started being lulled back to sleep again, whether anybody wants to admit it to you or not. Charlie Kirk was the catalyst that was needed for a lot of the country to realize that we are not living in the same world that we did on September 9th, 2025 versus September 10th, 2025. Now, you've got a lot of folks on both sides that are screaming for the dial to be turned up or the switch to be flipped, depending on which side they are on. I don't think any of them are going to get exactly what they've asked for if it does ever come to pass, though. Because it's been a long time since we've had a civil war. It's been a long time since we've had an up-close, personal, and bloody war, too. I think that's part of what's made all these police actions and everything that we've done over the last several decades, not counting Vietnam, because it still was pretty much an on-the-ground skirmish. But when you've got a bunch of kids that are sitting in Langley in a shed flying drones with joysticks, thousands of miles away from the theater of war, kind of makes it easier, wouldn't you think? All right. But again, there is still good news. The agents, the airport crews, the listeners who care enough to pay attention, you're the reason this place still works. Yesterday, we were talking about the shutdown second week. Today, we're talking about the cracks inside the Democratic Party, inside our cyber defenses, and inside our institutions. But we also saw the fix. People doing the work anyway. That's the America that still works. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay grateful for the people who actually keep the country running. I'm Rick Robinson. This has been the Rick Robinson Show. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Same truth, even less nonsense, if at all possible. On the way out, though, I do still want to tease one more thing. Don't forget Friday, a week from Friday, almost this Friday, week from Friday, October 24th, 2025, the day the Earth stood still, presented by the KLRN radio players. Again, that is kind of it's a big deal. The reason it's a big deal, and I talked about this at the opening of the show, I'm going to talk about it at the end of the show. Remember that whole nearly 5-year span I was telling you where I was barely hanging on by a thread, trying to figure out how to put my life back together, all that fun stuff? You know, the funny thing is, right before my life turned sideways, I was about to start talking to the folks of KLR Radio about starting to try to put on radio dramas. And my life went sideways, and I was unplugged from this other than, you know, keeping certain people's shows on running that I was required to do production for over a year. When I came back, I found out that they had started doing what I had always wanted to do, and I didn't even have to tell them that I wanted to do it. It was started by Mickey Blowtorch during COVID, and it basically just became a way for them to have an outlet since everybody was being locked at home, etc. And I found out about it. I think it was, if I remember right, I think the first one was October of 21. And they had asked, because that was around the time I was trying to get spun back up again. And they had asked me to be part of it, and I couldn't make it happen. And then I was so bummed that I couldn't because I heard it, and it was so much fun. And the funny thing is, it started as just kind of a half joke where they were going to do a live read while they were drinking. And then it was one of the most popular things that we had put on. And then the next thing you know, we were doing Christmas productions. And yeah, I mean, granted, we get some, well, this sounds like a bunch of 10th graders in a high school drama thing doing a Zoom call. Well, that's basically what it was when it started. Look, we don't claim to be thespians. We're just trying to entertain people. But the thing for me and what helped me snap back in a little bit was realizing that this must have been something that was supposed to happen, because I hadn't even had a chance to tell them that I wanted to start exploring that, and they figured out a way to start making it happen without me. That's when I knew what an amazing team we had here, what a family we had built. And the family continues to grow. We have new KLR radio players joining us usually every production. We have quite a few that'll be joining us. We'll have the cast list out probably later this next week or so, so we can start promoting in earnest. But again, the day the Earth stood still, in conjunction with the rest of KLR Radio spooky season, Friday night, October 24th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, otherwise lovingly known as Aggie Time. So make sure you join us for that. It should be a lot of fun. And again, want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. I stopped looking at the numbers because I realized I've been focusing on that too much and not paying enough attention to how the show should work or sound. My name's Rick Robinson. This has been my show. We're going out with the full intro. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and I'll be back tonight for Jen and Rick. Oh, and don't forget to come hang out for the Culture Shift first, too. That one, I believe, starts at 8:30.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real, tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this too. After Jen and Rick, there will be a live BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon from our friends over at SHR Media, so make sure you come back for that too. So that puts me working till about 1 in the morning Eastern time ish. Bye, everybody.
Grab your coffee, raise that flag, stand your ground, never wave that rag. News with a backbone, voice of the free. Rick's got the pulse of liberty. It's the Rick Robinson Show, bold, unafraid. Truth bombs drop in a red state parade. show where we say what we feel.
Say goodnight, Gracie.